Let's do this. Let me pull up something a bit more political, and then we'll get into why this stuff is so important. This is a story from the New York Times. USA Today to remove 23 articles after investigation into fabricated sources. The articles were removed after an investigation identified stories with sources that appeared to be fabricated, USA Today said. The internal investigation, which took place over a period of several weeks, began after USA Today received an inquiry related to the veracity of details in an article by Gabriela Miranda, who was a breaking news reporter at USA Today. All right. I'm going to pull up USA Today real quick.
So one of the leading fact-check news organizations in the country has been spreading false news and fake news for
And here's the best part.
Interesting.
NewsGuard gives them a 100 out of 100.
Wow.
And they've actually been fabricating stories. So my question to NewsGuard is, why did you certify an organization that was fabricating stories outright?
But Tim, they got it. They took them down now. So they fact-checked their own fact-checks and determined they were factually incorrect. So they should get 101. Like
There's no fact-checking. There was just gulagging. They deleted 23 articles were deleted.
Here's my point. USA Today publishes fake articles. NewsGuard looks at them and says, those are real. Why? Because USA Today said so.
Exactly. USA is the fact check. They fact check a bunch of stuff that we say is bogus fact checking, but you get called a conspiracy theorist for calling out the bogus fact checkers.
Yep.
Okay.
I get fact checked for the most ridiculous, stupidest things, especially when it comes to memes by these institutions. and again, another thing to kind of understand here, go on their website. It should be front page news on their website right now. Hey guys, we lied to you. Hey guys, we fabricated stories. Hey guys, if this was me,
it is.
It is the
January. Where is it?
Top headline.
Yep. There it is.
There it is.
Thank goodness. All right, good.
Thank goodness.
All right, finally. But it should have been like, so sorry, we goofed up, we messed up, we lied to you, and this is full transparency and accountability of what actually happened.
But hold on, if you back it up just 1 second, I still saw January 6th first.
I saw that too.
Yep.
That's bigger.
That's not front page. I mean, they should stop running news. They should stop putting out articles. They should apologize, get on their knees to the general public and say, I'm so sorry, I lied to you. But they don't. That's what anyone with any kind of reputation should be doing right now, because this is so embarrassing. And this is not something that's uncommon. This happens a lot. There's a lot of reporters doing this. Brian Williams, another person who did this very publicly.
This is why free speech is so important. It's obvious. I mean, obviously free speech is important for a million and one reasons that we talk about in terms of your right to go outside and speak your mind, or your right to practice the religion you want. I'm speaking more broadly than just the First Amendment. I mean quite literally your right to say these things about what you believe and your politics. But it's also your ability to share the news on these social media platforms. And when the news broke of censorship against conservatives, it was May of 2016, and it was Gizmodo, I believe, who said that Facebook moderators for the trending tab were deleting conservative sources from their trending news section because they believed conservative sources were fake news. That was it. Now we have NewsGuard, which is one of their big clients, I believe, is Microsoft, Bill Gates, and they like to certify these news outlets. Now, I like it. I like the idea, and so I make sure all of our sources are always going to have that nice green check mark. But I will not hesitate to point out that their system is completely broken and makes no sense. Particularly because how does USA Today have a 100 out of 100 if they're publishing fake news? How do fact checkers know whether or not a story from USA Today is real or fake? If the New York Times, CNN, or USA Today come out with a story and say, John Smith told us he sold a boat for $100, they would say it's true because USA Today said so. See, that's not fact checking. They just say, these NewsGuard, for instance, totally biased in that we just assumed USA Today was right. No, they should be downranked completely, and they should be forced to jump through hoops, legal audits, if they want to get their green check mark back.
They should be fired. They shouldn't have a job.
Well, the reporter, I think, is getting fired.
The whole institution for allowing it, in my opinion.
Well, and the problem is there shouldn't be these gatekeepers in the first place. I mean, platforms shouldn't be gatekeepers.
Exactly.
They shouldn't be labelers, and that's where Rumble is taking the right direction.
Think about how irresponsible that is. Like, imagine putting a CEO of a tech company to assign other companies or other entities or other people to say what's right or what's wrong. Like,
what's true or what's fiction. I mean,
Like,
you look at
who am I to do that?
But
That's ridiculous.
It's the circular nature of it is that they use their own. Bill Gates having any hand in this whatsoever is already super sus, as the children say. But they use these to discredit the other independent voices to then raise their own voices to prominence, so they can remove who's the journalist that we
Well, it's
talked
like a
about?
version of Russiagate, where you use your own laundered information over and over again as sources and citations. So you have a
Right.
bogus source come in, and then they leak to the press that the FBI is investigating it, and then they use the press to get a FISA warrant, and then they use that fact to justify it to Congress.
There's a list that came out today of prominent people who have sowed doubt about the election. Now, what does that mean to sow doubt about the election? It means nothing. Literally nothing. You could say something like, wow, look at this story about the election. That's dumb. And they'll say, oh, but by sharing it, you sowed doubt whether that was in. So I made the list. Yeah, I'm very excited.
sure.
But here's the reason they do it. There are organizations that fundraise off of this. There are news outlets that publish the lies. They need some kind of legal justification so that I can't sue them. So someone will make an opinion statement. Tim Pool sowed doubt about the election. How did he do it? He reported on a story in New Jersey about an election that had to be redone due to them finding a bundle of ballots in a mailbox. True story. Oh, but that means Tim Pool is sowing doubt on the election. So we're going to put you on that list. Now news outlets can all report the more extreme version. They can launder that information and say Tim Pool published or pushed lies. Then when I come back and say that's not true, they'll say I was just referencing this study. And that was my interpretation of it.
Tim,
Good luck suing.
It's happening on a smaller scale to me in Canada, but CTV W5 runs a story, a hit piece on Rumble, refers to it as the darling of the right-wingers, where you go to post-COVID misinformation. They then demonize me on that show to make me look like I'm responsible for one cherry-picked, let's call it a bad comment. The story goes, publishes. Wikipedia, then I noticed some people editing over my Wikipedia to say, it's time we get real with Viva's right-wing extremism. W5 showcased him. And then I noticed another article from the Simon Fraser Institute talking about disinformation on the internet, that Google doesn't autocomplete. When you look up Alex Jones, it says author and not conspiracy theorist, and they think that's a problem. And I was in the appendix that when you look up Viva Frei, it doesn't say right-wing COVID conspiracy theorist. It just says nothing. It's the wrap-up smear on a fake news level.
I want to add to that real quick. So I'll put a pin in that, Luke. When Google Glass came out, it was very prominent because you could say, okay, Google, tell me this, and it would talk to you. You'd say, what is the capital of New York? The capital of New York is Albany, and then they'll give you some facts. So we get this thing, and so, I'm hanging out with Luke, and I go, okay, Google, who is Tim Pool? And it goes, Tim Pool is an award-winning journalist from Chicago, Illinois. And then I go, okay, Google, who is Luke Rutkowski? And it literally goes, conspiracy theorist. That's it.
I was going to make that point. I'm happy
is that what
you
you were
did
gonna say?
before me. I was going to say that. I was originally going to say I think everyone in this room has been slandered, has been attacked, had the media just make up stories about them. I mean, I had my name run through the mud. They were just making stuff up out of just thin air. But just let's think about this story from USA Today. What would happen if one of us did what USA Today did? What would happen if an independent media organization ran 23 fake stories that they just totally made up? We would not be we would be hearing about this,
Luke?
for years to come.
Can I pause you real quick? Do you really think it was just 23 stories?
This is what we know from their own independent audit. This
Exactly.
is like the police investigating the police, which is questionable. There's a reason Bill Gates puts hundreds of millions of dollars into media companies. There's a reason that social media algorithms promote these trusted news sources that lie about almost every single thing. And I think even Elon Musk made this point today, saying that predominantly almost everything that the corporate media tries to sell is a lie. Not all of it, but most of it. And I think it's fair to say that, especially with the way that our society has been abused and used by the special interests, that corporate media is just PR for the ruling establishment, and it's nothing else. And this is a perfect example of how they play by a whole different set of rules. When we get criticized, we get slandered, we get lied about, and we get attacked and vilified for trying to even speak up against this bullcrap.
Politico is a really interesting organization. I don't understand how they're NewsGuard certified, which makes me question NewsGuard itself. Politico has, we've showed these stories before. They have numerous stories contradicting their own reporting. One story is from January of 2017 that says something like, Ukraine panics assisting Democrats in the 2016 election is backfiring or something to that effect. The story was basically that Ukraine tried helping Clinton to stop Trump, and when Trump won, it was bad news for him. They then wrote a few years later that it was actually Russian disinformation that Ukraine helped the Democrats, and both stories are still live on Politico. How could you say, look, if that was the only thing, let's say out of the other 500,000 stories or whatever on that website, they're all true and correct, but those two exist, you'd immediately have to say, as a rating agency, you are being stripped of being a credible agency because you have two articles that both say both stories are false.
I'm going to ask a stupid question. Is New York Times NewsGuard certified?
Oh, 100%.
Okay. There's still an article up there that says he dreamed of being a Capitol police officer, then a group of pro-Trump mobsters killed him. Brian Sicknick. That article is still up.
Wow.
And one of the books that Robert has recommended on our locals community, The Gray Lady Winked. You realize it's not a one-off. It's institutionalized. It's been this way for the last 70 years. They got it wrong on the Holodomor. They got it wrong. Holodomor. I apologize. They got it wrong on World War II. They got it wrong on Hiroshima. They got it wrong on the Palestinian boy that was killed in the first Intifada. It's a history. It's a pattern. It's not about consistency. It's about hierarchy.
It's not a mistake. It's just the way. That's it. The only thing is we're now able to fact check it and call it out in real time.
And then if we make one mistake, we get not just blacklisted. You'll get deplatformed. If anyone had done one of these stories, they would be deplatformed.
Oh, you'd be banned from Google News instantly. They would never show your website again. For the longest time, this show didn't appear on Google search. It's the craziest thing. It's like, we're on YouTube. Then one day, it was funny, I called him out on the show, and then people were like, yo, you're back on Google. Like someone watching at Google was like, let's put him back in there, and loaded us back up. But it's remarkable that Google is the way people find information.
Over 90%.
Yeah, you open the browser bar and you type in a word. I don't even type in web addresses anymore. I'll just type in, like what did I just do? I typed in USA Today and pressed enter, and then it went to Google. If Google removed USA Today for being fake news, it wouldn't come up.
It was a very good suit against the Biden administration brought by the states of Arizona and Louisiana that goes through and in their motion for preliminary injunction details the degree of government collusion that's been taking place. Even under Trump's administration, he didn't know his own Department of Homeland Security, his own cybersecurity folks were already manipulating information, including suppressing information hostile to Biden and favorable to Trump. And they've only escalated that. That's why Bobby Kennedy's suit against Facebook is so important before the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, currently pending. But this is also been government-created, government-curated censorship for the purposes of controlling the information in the narrative. Yeah. And that's why they fear big tech. And independent to any kind of challenge to big tech monopoly is a threat to their gatekeeping control over the institutional narrative.
And they are monopolies. You characterize them absolutely very correctly.
And for those people out there that think monopoly means 100%, it doesn't. It means 75% or more historically in American law. And this is over 80%. Google, as you're mentioning, over 90% of all searches controlled by Google. Almost all news information that's sought or that is read or reviewed or heard is dominated by Google.
But Robert, respond to the argument that people are going to say it's a merit-based monopoly. They've gotten it because of a superior product.
None of that's true. The antitrust litigation details that. I mean, there is some degree to which this technology naturally inclines itself to monopoly in the way Peter Thiel talks about, but by no means did they actually obtain this monopoly. Twitter obtained it because they said we're going to be the free speech wing of the free speech party. They just lied. That's what they did. That's what Google did. That's what YouTube lied. YouTube said, hey, we welcome all content creators. We're never going to censor anybody. And then they became one of the biggest censors in the entire globe.
And they keep changing their terms of services as you go along. So you agree to one, you invest all of your time, your energy, your blood, sweat, and tears into a business, and then they say, you know what, we're just going to blacklist you because you challenged the narrative. You questioned the agenda, so we're going to demonetize you, downrank you, and make sure that you can't work on the internet at all, which is the power that they have, which is absolutely insane and way too much power for one organization to have.
Here's where I think it's the most important thing is. I think for all of us, we've got platforms or literally run one, and so the problems we face are particularly unique, don't exist in the general population. But for the average person who does choose to get on Twitter and say, I would like to speak my mind and challenge this, they're the ones who get banned first. When Learn to Code was happening, when they were banning people for saying hashtag Learn to Code, majority of the people who were getting banned were like small counts, people who were just, posting it. The big channels were less likely to get banned, and this is on purpose. They don't want to create a splash. But there are so many people I've met and spoken with who say, I was on Twitter for 2 days and I posted a news story and they banned me. I hear it all the time. Yep. Now, think about what that means. Twitter will say, if they're on the left, give them some leeway. If they're on the right, don't give them the time of day. So when right-wing people come on, or libertarian, moderate, right, whatever you want to call it, come on the platform and say, here's the real story with a link to a source debunking something, they're banned instantly. If you ban 60% of them, but only 40% of the left, if anyone at all, you create this lopsided system where the majority of information coming out will be narrative-controlled fake news, and the people who know better are unable to counter it. That's why we need Elon Musk.
You're right over the target with this one. It's the long tail that got banned that no one's talking about. It's the people at the top. They were tougher to ban, but the long tail really got banned. It shifted the whole system, tilted it everywhere. This is why I think like platforms like Truth have a completely different audience.
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's what
it skews perception and reality, especially if you're able to get rid of that tail, as you perfectly described here, because there has been a full frontal assault on independent thought, independent media, and critical thinking. If you dare to even just go against the establishment and what they want you to believe at that current time, at that current moment, even though it flip-flops by the interest, whoever's involved in it, you are done with. You are not going to have a way to succeed or live online, but now there's alternatives. Now there's Truth, there's Rumble, there's Getter, there's Hive, there's Steemit. There's so many other different platforms out there.
Steemit?
That's an old one. I'm just going off the train of thinking. That's an old one that I remembered. There's Hive. There's so many different ones out there.
It's also meant to tell you as an independent person that your view doesn't count and that your view is wrong. So that little person, that ordinary person, that everyday person doesn't have lots of followers, gets on and has a dissident information about COVID, dissident information about the election fornication that took place in 2020, has dissident information about Ukraine. They're told your view is not only disapproved, not only unsanctioned, but it's wrong and nobody really agrees with you. And that's why you're being censored. That's why you're being sanctioned. That's why you're being disapproved of. And that's why it's critical that there be tech challenges to this, whether it's locals, whether it's Rumble, whether it's Truth.
And I'll say we're going to get into this with the Rumble terms of use discussion, but the learn to code, the rationale at the time, if everyone remembers it, it was deemed something of a call to violence. It was deemed to be harassment. Learn to code for the journalists who mocked middle America when they said, well, we're losing our jobs, and they said learn to code. And when the journalists started losing their job, they said learn to code. Oh, when we said it to you, it was loving, a needle. When you say it to us, it's a call to violence. It's weaponizing and bastardizing the terms for political purposes.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.